Welcome to the LC3 Family Talk podcast, where we take a deeper look at everything from recent sermons to current events, all through a biblical lens. You'll love the guests and stories you'll hear on LC3 Family Talk, where our goal is connection, community, and relationship with God and with one another. And now, here's your host and one of our pastors, David Pritchard.
Oh, Lake City, LC3 Family Talk. So glad that you're here. As we're recording this, we are right at the beginning of 2026. And so a couple things happen this time of year is you're saying goodbye to a year that we just finished, and we're saying hello to a new year. And so it feels like the right time for us to get together and just talk a little bit about that, how we kind of closed out 2025, but also what are we looking ahead towards and what are we looking forward to? And who better to do that with than Pastor Tung and Pastor Reese? Any excuse I have to be with these guys is good, but
hey, church family.
This feels like a really good one. So yeah, hi you guys, welcome. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Excited to be back. It's been a while.
It has been a while, and we need to do this more often. But I would love to start, because we are kind of ending 2025, Christmas season, a lot of things happening personally as well as in the church. As you wrapped up 2025, the Christmas season, I'd just love to hear what was maybe a highlight of that time.
You're assuming I've wrapped up the Christmas season. I'm ready to start Christmas music in 2026, like now.
No.
But no, I think just the highlights was just, I think, the entire season. It felt, we had a lot of good activities. We got a lot of good family time. I think one of my highlights was both my older kids could not be home for Christmas, but we had just a terrific 2-hour FaceTime call. Had a chance to connect, and seeing technology still connect us, even though we're across, it was still a sweet time.
Yeah, for me, this is the first year that our kids knew Christmas was coming and were expecting presents. And so it was, at one hand, I was like, oh my gosh, you guys are gonna go crazy every single year now because presents are coming. But our kids are the only grandkids on Allison's side of the family, and so they just get spoiled.
Oh man.
I mean, they got a mini bounce house, and then they got one of those ride-on John Deere tractors, and so every day are going crazy, having fun with the presents, and so it's fun to see them get excited about the things that I used to get excited about, although I never got a bounce house or a ride-on.
Well, no kidding.
So.
What about you, David?
Well, so a couple thoughts come to mind when I think of that. One is, same, I loved having family, everything, but the other side of that was I just went to the dentist, and my dental hygienist, she said, "How was your Christmas?" I said, "Oh, it was great." And she said, "How about yours?" She goes, "Oh, it was great. It was very peaceful." And I said, "Well, mine was anything but that." It was wild and crazy. It was really great, and really enjoyed it.
Reese, I thought one of your highlights would be Montana State winning the FCS championship. Is that not?
That was not up there. That was probably the lowest of the highlights. Yeah, I mean,
I thought you were such a huge fan.
For my college rivals team to win the national championship was an all-time low.
Sorry to rub that in.
It was not good. It was bad.
Yeah.
I have not stopped making fun of him for this.
I know. It's going to be a couple years.
I'm glad you reminded me, because I forgot to kid him a little bit about that. Hey, so one of the things I would like to talk about, speaking of Christmas, is the Christmas series. I think we say this after a lot of our stuff, but I really enjoyed this series, talking about stories. I'd love to hear, how did we end up coming to this place where we did the stories of Christmas?
Yeah. When you look at the stories of Christmas, Joseph, Mary, angels, shepherds, you're telling them every December. And so for me, it's just trying to think through, how do I have a novel approach to that Christmas story? We don't want that to get stale, even in the hearts of our people. So that was one, was just me trying to creatively think of a different way to approach that season. But the other is, there are very few things I love as much as when I get to hear our people share their stories. And when I just was thinking about the word stories of Christmas, I kept thinking about so many amazing testimonies I had heard all year from our people. Mm-hmm. And once the Lord made that click in my mind, just being able to say, look, we get to tell our people's story. It was one of my favorite series specifically for that reason.
Yeah, I think we get spoiled sometimes as pastors because we get to hear these testimonies all the time. Sometimes when I'm ministering to someone or talking to someone, I'm thinking, man, if only you knew how many other people struggle with the same exact thing. and that God's brought them through it.
Right.
And I think that's the beauty of stories, is that from these testimonies, other people are sitting there going, this is such a big church. I have no idea who this person is. And yet, because of Christ and what he's doing in your life, I'm connected to you. And so it bridges the sense of community.
I often describe what we get to do is we get a front row seat
Right.
of what God's doing, right? Which honestly, at times it's really hard to be in that front row seat, but man, what a blessing when you get to see God transform and move in somebody's life. And you do, in those moments, oftentimes you do find yourself going, man, I wish others could hear this. And so to have them get to hear that was really special.
Yeah. It's one of the things I thought was just when I was reaching out to folks to see if they would share their testimony, every single one was excited to share their testimony. Right? They felt honored to be asked, but it felt like this was a story waiting to be told. And I know there's just so many stories that are waiting to be told. And so just giving them a platform to do that yeah.
So as you look back now on it, do you feel like it accomplished the things that you were hoping it would accomplish?
I think so. I think it honored the Christmas story, number one. Number two, it was a new take on just thinking about that season. But number three, every single weekend, people came up to tell me how much those stories and testimonies resonated with them.
I think, too, we forget that because the Christmas narrative is so ingrained, like we hear it every year, we forget that those were real people living
Right.
real lives.
Right.
Right? It's like, oh, no, this is the Christmas story. Like, no, but it's also a young girl who's walking through this. It's also a young man walking. And so I think that highlighting the story side of it reminded us that, no, these are real life stories that we're talking about.
Yeah.
And I think when people share their testimonies, what it does is it kind of puts flesh on what it might have been like for
That's right.
the shepherds to feel like outsiders.
That's right.
It gives it a real sense of meaning and purpose behind just the character that we have read.
Yeah, which, by the way, this podcast feels like the right time to also remind everyone, like, we plan to have some of them, we're going to bring some of them in the studio and let everyone hear more of their story. Because in 3 minutes, you don't get to hear enough.
Yeah.
Some of the nuance of how they got to some of the things that they shared from up front. So that's how we closed out 2025. It was fun doing that last weekend.
Well, let me ask you a question. How was it preaching Christmas Eve at Lacey?
Oh, that was so fun. Yeah, that was so fun. And a couple of things were really special. One of them was that those folks that had been part of the previous church, Grace Bible, it was really fun to see just the light in their eyes, walking in and seeing a full worship center there specifically to worship the Lord on Christmas Eve. That was special. And then, I got to have some of my family there as well. And being able to, because I've never gotten to preach Christmas Eve.
Right.
So first time getting to preach the Christmas Eve message with my family in the seats was really special for me.
It's preaching on like Easter and preaching on Christmas Eve. It is such a special privilege. And I'm really clear. I'm very selfish about both those days. I want to do all of them. I wanted to do the ones in Lacey too.
I know. I know. Thankfully, I won the arm wrestling
did.
competition. Yes.
But I still remember the first time I preached Easter and the first time I preached Christmas Eve. It is unforgettable. And people are wanting to be there. They're excited to be there. They want to learn something about the truth. It's very special. So I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah, no, it was very fun, and thanks for letting me win the arm wrestling match.
Yeah.
So I kept that one, but
My arm still hurts.
I think we should have slashed Pastor Tom's tires. If he was going to try to hop on I-5 and try to get to the other serviers on time, we should not let that happen.
no, that was great. And then the other thing that I loved that we did was Christmas was a Thursday. That following weekend after Christmas was the conclusion of the Christmas series. So it wasn't like Christmas, it's over. We had one more because there was life after Christmas when the first Christmas happened. And so it was fun coming back to it just for one more weekend.
And not just coming back to it and ending the series, but ending the year like we did last year with baptisms.
Oh.
Baptisms are always still a highlight for everybody.
Yes.
And it's not just because it's a fun thing to see. It's a reminder of the life change that God is still doing in people. And again, we get front row seats to hear the testimonies of the people being baptized. And I baptized a friend on Sunday, the last Sunday. That is just one of my favorite baptisms ever because I've had the chance to see his journey. And so again, just another highlight for me for the season.
Well, I had a couple of really special moments. One, it was the first two of our Lacey folks getting baptized, so that was really special. I was so appreciative because they were both very nervous about doing it. They both took that step, and so that was amazing. And then I too got to baptize a friend, Taz, and he's been a believer, but it was just really fun because he and I have done a lot of life together, and so being able to dunk him, he was a little worried I might not bring him back up, but
I was worried.
but it was very special. I'm not going to lie, shed a few tears up there this time. I mean, have several times, but this time for sure.
For sure.
It was a great ending to 2025, but here we are now, 2026. Hard to believe, but
Easter's right around the corner.
there's a lot of truth in that. So as we start this year, any goals, not necessarily for the church right now, but personally, what are some of your goals this year?
I used to be like so anti goal setting, partly because of my perfectionist mindset, and I was just like, I'm not even going to try because I know I'm not going to keep these, and I'm going to beat myself up, and it was this vicious cycle. In the last few years, Allison and I have gotten more intentional about goal setting, and one of my goals for this next year is to do a prayer walk in the morning. The reason for that is because I used to do my quiet time at 7 a.m. or whatever, and now as we've had kids and they wake up earlier and earlier, now they're up before 6 a.m., and I'm like, I'm rolling out of bed, I'm sitting on my couch to do my quiet time, and I'm like sometimes falling asleep to do my quiet time, and I'm like, this is not good. I need to get outside, I need to wake up, and for me, when I'm walking, it just helps connect my mind and my body together with the Lord, and so a prayer walk has been something that recently I've gotten into more, and so I'm trying to start each morning just with a 15 to 20 minute prayer walk.
Love that.
I have an exercise goal as well this year, but another just a unique goal for me was, so I used to be an avid reader. I used to read 50 or 60 books a year, but ever since I started becoming a pastor, almost exclusively I'm reading is commentaries and stuff for sermons that I'm preparing, and the amount of leisure reading that I've had a chance to do has just continued to diminish over time. And so one of my goals this year is going back to some leisure reading, just for my own mental sanity and being able to mentally calm down. I think going back to leisure reading is one of my goals.
Yeah, so same. I have some physical goals, exercise goals. We had a pretty good year in 2025, Kelly and I, but definitely have some goals there. But oddly enough, reading is one of mine. You can never accuse me of reading 50 to 60 books a year. Just want to make that clear. But what I've noticed is I've moved more and more away from reading, whether for leisure or, I mean, obviously we read to sermon prep, but I have really set a goal to spend more time reading and less time checking my phone for anything, just getting out a book and actually reading.
I think one other goal I have is just, so last weekend I preached on 6 different areas to consider in terms of how we have costly worship, and one of those was time and focus. And time management for me has always been an issue, not because I don't know how to use it, but because I pack it too much. Mm-hmm. I think one of the things I was feeling convicted about was we've had an extraordinarily busy season at church last year with the addition of the Lacey campus, and as we're thinking about our continued growth, thinking about this year and how we handle that growth, it is really easy for me to use that as an excuse on why my schedule is busy. And again, if I want to give my schedule to the Lord, it means being super intentional about what I'm scheduling for my time, being super intentional about honoring the Sabbath and not using, but church is so busy as an excuse.
Or as soon as I get through this season, then I'll do that.
There's always another season of
Yes.
busyness. And so it was just one for me. The costliness of time and focus for me is something I'm trying to be super intentional about.
It's great. And that's a great transition into, I'd love to talk about 2026 through the lens of the church as our lead pastor, vision for the next year. I know God has led you and given you some vision, and we just had our vision sermon that you preached up here, and I preached down in Lacey. Tell us a little bit about that. How did you get where you got to? And
again, you're all part of our conversations. The elders, the pastors, the leadership team, we've been praying about 2026 for months. We've been praying for God to give us a vision for the future. And so all of that was coalescing with, just as I was looking around, especially for the last 4 months, part of that vision, David, was actually inspired by you. I am watching how much you have sacrificed to lead well at Lacey. I could not be more thankful for your leadership at Lacey campus, but watching how much you've given to that campus and all that you've undertaken, I'm watching all the people that are serving here. I'm watching the people who are serving in Lacey.
Yep.
so many people for the last 5 months have put in so much of themselves. It really was, it's costly to them, it's costly to their lives, and they're doing it with great joy. And that just made me think about this idea of costly worship. And so when the Lord put 1 Chronicles 21 and 2 Samuel chapter 24, the same story of David's costly sacrifice, I couldn't get that out of my mind. And so that's been just in my mind for 2 months now. I think in November was when it first started gelling. That fulfilled all of our prayers in terms of what kind of vision we have. We don't want visions that are practical, like, hey, we want to grow 5% this year. Those might be great goals to have, but our goals need to be about our people and about their heart and about their walk with Christ. And again, this idea that we all worship to a different degree, and God all asks us to make big sacrifices of different degrees. Well, what does that look like, and why would we do that? And so just, again, this vision in my mind of that we would be people who are so deeply in love with Jesus that if he asks us to worship in a particular way, taking leadership at a campus, going out of our comfort zone, if we can love Jesus that fully, that we can worship in however he calls. That's my heart.
Well, when you think of it, if we try it the other way, right?
Yeah.
If we try to change our habits and, hey, let's do things differently and hope our heart comes along, like that never happens. I guess I can't say never, but
Not effectively.
But if we can change our heart, then those actions and the results of that, a transformed heart changes how we then live that out.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So let's talk a little bit about the Vision Sermon Series. At the heart of it, it was this idea of understanding and living out costly worship, having a heart that is drawn to costly worship, but we don't mean how well we sing, thankfully, or I'm in trouble. What does that mean, costly worship, when you think of that, Reese?
Yeah, I think back to the story of I will not give to God something that does not cost me anything, right? And so this idea that to worship God means really a giving up of myself, a full surrender. And Tom did a great job of outlining these different ways of how does that look. I know for my own life, it comes down to what are the things that are really comfortable for me, the things that feel really good, the things that my flesh often desires. And oftentimes for me, it's that extra little bit of sleep in the morning, or I want to just sit on my couch and be comfortable. And so for me, even my goal, thinking about being outside in the cold, even in the winter, if I'm willing to just start my day with a little discomfort because it means that I want to surrender more to the Lord, I think what that does for the rest of the day is discipline breeds more discipline. So when I surrender to God at the beginning of my day, I'm going to be more likely to surrender to him in little moments throughout the rest of the day. But that comes ultimately with a small bit of sacrifice, and walking outside for 15 minutes compared to what a lot of people sacrifice for Jesus may not be a lot, but I think it's knowing your own heart and what God is calling you to do in this season.
Right. It's a training of the heart. Yeah.
Yeah. So we've handed out these bookmarks for folks. If they're listening right now, what are we hoping for them now moving forward after hearing the Vision Sermon?
Yeah, my hope is that it's not a one weekend and done. I mean, my hope is that they're not just thinking about this week because they brought a bookmark home on Sunday, but that bookmark stays with them in their Bible all year long, and that it is something that they think about all year long, that all year long they're asking God this question of, hey, January passed and now it's February. Lord, how would you want me to worship you this month? Or it's the summertime, and Lord, how in the last half of the year would you want me to worship? And so for me, my hope is that they not only set goals now, but they really use that as a frame in terms of how they live for the rest of the year.
Yeah, that's good. So in that sermon series, you did talk about some things that may be coming up this year.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, the reality is, again, a year ago, Lacey's not on our radar, and God says, I've got some stuff I want.
That's actually how I started the sermon down in Lacey. I was like, hey, a year ago today, beginning of 2025, like if you would have told me, hey, next year you're going to be at a campus, like I would have said, you're nuts. Like there's no way. And here we are.
And here we are. And I think while we have things in our mind that we think we're going to try to accomplish this year, I'm looking forward to seeing what the Lord does to surprise us. But what I do know is our parking lots are full, our seats are full, and more people are still inviting their friends and inviting strangers, and I want to make sure that we steward what God has given us. We're actively in conversations to think about, do we need a fourth service? Probably.
Yeah.
If that's true, do we need a second service at Lacey? Probably soon this year, right? When we think about questions like that, then the next question is, so how and when and who's involved and how will we cover certain, like all of those are starting to materialize. So we're mentioning things like we will likely have to do a fourth service and likely at some point this year a second service in Lacey. Those conversations need to start now.
And there's a cost
There's a cost to that.
to that,
Yeah.
right?
I mentioned, it's not a hyperbole to say 4 services a month. So if we add an extra service one weekend, it's 4 extra services a month. That means 100 plus volunteers every month to pull off a fourth service. More than almost 2 dozen to do a second service in Lacey.
Yep.
Those are not small numbers. And so that that requires a cost for our people, requires a cost for us in terms of the planning. So those are things that we are actively thinking through, and we want the congregation praying alongside us in those things.
Among your roles, Next Gen, I know there's a lot of cost to all of this growth for Next Gen. What's that looking like?
Yeah, and for those of you that don't know, the way we think about Next Gen is that birth through young adult age range. Children's ministry, youth ministry, young adult ministry. When it comes to thinking about growth in a fourth service, when we look at the numbers, one of the ways our churches has grown most significantly over the past couple of years is young families, which we love and is exciting, and we know you're going to fight over holding the babies every time too, right? So with that, to disciple our young people well means being able to build a group of volunteers that can love and disciple our kids. And that number that we talk about when it comes to volunteers on the weekend is the most significant one when we think about all of our different roles, whether it be worship team, security, host team. That children's ministry team is one that we need the most volunteers at, that feels a lot of that growth.
And we've had to make changes, like in December we moved the elementary kids to the gym.
Yep.
That's going to become permanent just because that's the only way to accommodate that growth. But it also leads to exciting things like we're thinking how we use the children's main area now as a permanent overflow space for our service, but also a family-friendly space for our service.
Yeah.
And so that we'll be, again, talking about what that looks like in the coming months.
I've described it as the world's best family room ever.
Yeah, world's best family room, right? Let's make that even more so. And so I think those are the things that are both challenges, but we have solutions that we're trying to work through that can be pretty good solutions.
Well, and I think what I hope, church family, you hear is for us as leadership, like we don't take any of that for granted. We feel so incredibly blessed as a church. We sometimes talk about these things as a problem. There's certainly things that we have to try to navigate through, figure out, but at the same time, when we talk, we are always so grateful. We look at all of this as such a blessing, but it also a responsibility that God has asked us to steward well.
It's an amazing opportunity.
It is.
And I think that's such a helpful way to frame it, because it is sometimes overwhelming thinking about the challenges and the solutions to them, and thinking of them as, man, it is a gift to give something up to a God who is worthy of giving something up for. Yep. And one of the sayings Alice and I try to say often in our family is, we give up things we love for things we love even more. So if that means giving up the comfort of, we love going to the 9 a.m. service, that's the one we go to, and if that means rethinking that because we love God's kingdom and making room for more people, let's try to make that happen.
I still remember when we added the Saturday service and Pastor Jim said, hey, we feel like the Lord's calling us to do this Saturday service. We need it because of growth, but also there are people that we can be served by Saturday night, and we need 75 of you to make the decision. And Kelly and I talked, and we felt like that was something we were supposed to do. This was before I was on staff, so it was like we could not imagine giving up going to church on Sunday as our normal church. But sometimes God asks you to do things that maybe don't make sense in the moment. But now I look back and it's like, wow, what a beautiful thing God did on Saturday. Now our Saturday night service is amazing and so much different. Yeah. Well, you guys, thanks for joining me. Thanks for helping us kind of kick off this 2026. I am very excited about all that's been going on, all that's happening. We are back in the book of Matthew.
Yep. Starting this week.
Yep, we're looking forward to that. Actually, you two are on the docket.
Yeah, I'll be in Lacey.
Yep, I'm excited for that as well. But just thanks for joining me. And I said earlier just how grateful I am to be serving with you two. And I mean that sincerely. It's a real joy to be able to call you brothers, but then also to be able to, in the same breath, link arms and serve together. So thank you.
Likewise.
And thanks, church family, for
Happy New
joining
Year.
us, and Happy New Year. We actually posted or sent everybody an email with a link to the vision sermons that took place, if you want to know more about that in case you missed it. But if, as you're heading into 2026, you find yourself in this place of going, man, I'm not as excited about 2026 as you guys are, please reach out to us. Don't go this alone. We love you, and we want to serve you in more ways than just how we preach on a Sunday. So thanks again for joining us. We love you, and we'll see you next time.
Bye, church.
Thank you for joining us for connection, community, and relationship here on LC3 Family Talk. See you next time.